Okay, good evening, everyone. It's Eliaza. So I did a last video last week concerning it was a machine learning video, and it was under supervised learning. So under supervised machine learning. So I used Python to actually solve a linear regression from scratch. And I promised to upload a picture, which I didn't do because there was no time to do that. So I have the picture, that is the mathematical equation showing the breakdown of my steps. So now for linear regression, I already explained. I said that for linear regression, it involves a dependent and independent variable. So when we're looking at machine learning problems, machine learning algorithms, which are of course mathematical equations, they, like when you look at anything that involves regression, just know that we are talking about an independent and a dependent variable. So today we're going to be looking at multiple linear regression. But before I start, like I promised in my last video, I'm going to show you the mathematical breakdown, that is how it is solved mathematically with a biro and a paper for my last video. So I'll show you how it is solved by hand, that's linear regression, before we continue to our video today, multiple regression. So I have the picture down here. So this was a picture for my multiple regression. So I can zoom in so that you can take a look at the equation. So this was what we did in our last video. So I used Python for it, but this is how it would have been if we used a biro and a paper. So you can see we have n, we have summation of x, which is our independent variable, summation of x here again, and summation of x squared. Then we have our b0 and our b1. So these are our coefficients. So the coefficients are always dependent on the independent variables x. And then this is our dependent variable y. Of course, we have to find the summation of y and the summation of x, y. So this was what I did using Python. And these were my data sets. So these are all the data for the independent variable, while these are the data for the dependent variable. So of course we would need to feed our algorithm these two pairs of data so that our algorithm will be able to estimate a future value for our y. That is, our algorithm will be able to predict a future age, provided that we would supply a value for our x. So we did a breakdown of that in our last video. So like I said again, this is just a video using Python to solve machine learning algorithms from scratch. This is not a video on Python. I'm going to be doing subsequent video breaking down and explaining how you can be able to get familiar with the Python programming language. But for now, we are looking at machine learning from scratch with Python. Alright, so today's video, so now this is what we're looking at. We're looking at multiple regression using Python from scratch. So you can see here that we have a dependent variable. We have a dependent variable y. So we're trying to find someone's height, provided that we have supplied his value for his weight and his age. So mind you, before we even predict any future value, just a recap. The machine would need the data for the y-axis, the x1 and the x2. So we would need this entire data to feed to our algorithm before we can decide to predict future y values, provided that we have supplied value for x and x2. So like I said, these are the dependent variables, while this is the independent, these are the independent variables, while this is the dependent variables. So this is depending on the values of these two. So you are going to supply these to yourself after you have fed your algorithm the entire data set. Alright, now so this is the formula. This is the breakdown of the formula. So you can see we have summation x squared down to finding our B1 and B2. Then we are going to find our B0. So our algorithm is dependent on our B0, B1 and B2 before we can carry out any prediction. So you can see the formula for the multiple regression. So like I said, any equation that talks about regression, just know that that equation is talking about a relationship between an independent variable and a dependent variable. So in this case, our y is our dependent variable. It is depending on the value supplied for x1 and x2. So now, so that this doesn't get confusing, what we are doing, we are feeding our algorithm this entire data set. After we have fed the algorithm this data set, we are going to we're going to solve down up to this point, getting our values for B0, B1 and B2. And after that, we are going to supply our B0, B1 and B2 inside our algorithm. Then we are going to supply values from our head for x1 and x2. So we know that x1 in our equation, so our x1 is our weight and our x2 is our age. So after you have fed the algorithm this, you now want to predict future values. So you will now say, if this person weighs a weight of so kg and this person is maybe this years old, what will be his height? So you are the one who is going to estimate, supply a value for weight after you have already fed the algorithm the data set. So hope it's not too confusing. Like I said, this is just a video using Python to do machine learning. Alright, so let's get straight to it. So I have my Visual Studio Code blank slate. So now I'm going to be supplying values for my x and y. So we have already seen what our y is and what our x1 and our x2 are. Alright, so I'll create a class. Let me zoom in. Alright, so I'll create a class and I'll call the class multiple. Then I'll create a function and initializer. From my previous video, so I will just be doing brief explanation. So an initializer is a default function that is run automatically by a class. So once you create a class in Python, your initializer runs by default. So I'll say height y is equal to value. So I have my data set. I have 140, I have 155, I have 159, I have 179. Try to be fast. I have 192, I have 200, I have 212, I have 215. So these are the estimated heights of, these are the estimated heights that we are going to feed our algorithm as its data set. So I have self.weight x1. So this is going to be my x1. Now I have this person with 60 kg, person with 62 kg, this person with 67 kg, this person with 70, person with 71, person with 72, this person with 75 and 78. So 75, 78. So this way the weights of the person. So I have the age of the person now. I call it age x2. Self.age x2. This person was 22 years old, 25, 24, 20, 15, 14, 14, 11. So you can count to confirm if we have 8 data sets in each list. So a list is a data structure that can hold multiple values. Anyway, when I start my Python series, I will explain more on this. So we want to have a copy of our height. So self.height, height y copy. So I'm sure we know how to copy from our last video. So from the last video, I showed you how to copy. So copy that. Then we'll have self.weight. With x. Copy that as well. Self.age to copy. Sorry. Self.age x2, copy that. So this is going to be self.weight x2, copy that. Alright. Excellent. So now we're going to create 2 copies for weight, and you will see the reason why that is. So this one is going to be copy 1, copy 2. Alright, so we're done. So let's start now with building our algorithm. So you can just call it algorithm, or you can give it any name that suits you. So now this video assumes that you already have Python installed, and it assumes you are already familiar on how to execute Python code. Alright, so I'm not showing you a walkthrough for this video's purpose. It doesn't include us having a walkthrough of how Python is installed. Alright, so now I want to find the mean of my y, my x1, and my x2. So I'll say mean x, okay, mean y equal to the sum of self.height y divided by the length self.height y. So that's my mean for my y. Find my mean for my x1. That's going to be self.weight with x1 divided by length self.weight x1. Alright, now find the mean x2. Mean x2 equals to the sum self.age x2 divided by the length of self.age x2. So I found our mean for our y, our x1, and our x2. So sorry about the lights. My face is not showing properly because of the lighting. Okay, I think I know what I'll do. I'll just change the position of my video. I hope the lighting is a little bit better. There hasn't been light for a while, so but I hope you can see my face better. Alright, so I have my y, mean of x1 and x2. Alright, so the next thing that we are trying to find here, based on our formula, so we want to find our x1 squared, our x2 squared, our x1y, x2y, and our x1, x2 from our diagram. So from our picture, you can see what we're looking for here. So I'll just go scroll down. You can see this. So you can see what we're looking for. We're looking for x2, x1 square, x2 square, x1y, x2y, x1, x2. So we're going to use what we are already familiar with. Alright, so we're going to use list comprehension. So but before that, let's find our summation of y, summation of x1, and summation of x2. So I would say summation of y is equal to sum of my self dot height y. This is my summation of y, and my summation of x1 is equal to sum self dot weight x1, then summation of x2 equal to summation of self dot h x2. So I found the summation of my y, my x1 and my x2. So now let's find the summation of x1 square, summation of x2 square, summation of x1, just like I said. Alright, so for us to do that, come in. Alright, so for us to do that, I would say summation x1 squared. I'll create a variable for that. Say sum, and as usual, I'll use my list comprehension. I'll say x1 raised to power 2 for x1 in self dot weight with x1. Alright, that's my sum of my x1. And the next one is summation of x2 squared is equal to sum of my list comprehension, x2 raised to power 2 for x2 in self dot age x2. We have our x1 and x2 squared. Alright, so based on our formula, so we're going to look for x1, y. So because we are dealing with two data sets, our x1 and our y, we are going to create a list so that we can take the first value from our x1, the first value from our y, multiply them together, put them in a new list, start a loop again, take the next value from the x1, the next value from the y, multiply them, put them in a new list, like that. So we're going to create a loop for those of us familiar with loops in programming languages. Alright, so I would say x1 y is equal to an empty list. Then I'll create a while loop. I'll say while. So remember, we created a copy for our x1. We created two copies. So I'll take the first copy, self dot with x1 copy 1, while self dot with x1 copy 1. So while I'm inside there, I'll create a for loop with y in self dot height. Let me just use height y. So this is my y. So I want to get from y1. And I'll create my x is equal to my self dot weight copy 1 dot pop. So pop is a function in Python that allows us to remove elements from a list and either remove it and do away with it, or remove it and put it inside a list. I'll create a variable called result that takes the multiplication of both values, and I will call my list. Now I'll use the append function. So I said the append function allows us to take an element and add it inside a list. That's what the append function does. Alright, so we have gotten our x1 squared, x2 squared, x1 y1. Sorry, x1 y. But we have not gotten the summation of that. So we would need to get the summation of that first. So I'll say summation of x1 y is equal to sum x1 y. Alright, so I've gotten that now. Now the next while loop is going to be for the next copy. It's going to be self dot weight copy 2, because that's my still my x1. Hold on, before this, we're dealing with x2. Before this, we're dealing with x2. So I would say x2 y, a new empty list. So now I'm going to loop through that. I would say self dot age x2 copy. While I'm looping through the copy of my x2, I'll create a for loop, say for y in self dot age. No, height is my y, height. Then I'll create a variable called so I'll get my x. I'm going to be self dot age x2 copy dot pop again like before. Now say result is equal to x multiplied by y. So we're doing this step by step so that we would see how everything is done. So what are we adding? Adding the results. Alright, so now you can see that if we go back to our picture, see that this is checked, this and this. So I've checked this two just now. So let us try to square it. I'll say summation x2 y is equal to sum of x2 y. Alright, so that. So now the next thing we're looking for is this x1, x2. So you see the reason why I made a copy of my age x2 twice. Why I made two copies. Alright, so this is the reason. So I'll create x1, x2 is equal to an empty list. So now I'll say while self dot weight copy. A copy of my weight x1, x2. I'll say for y in self dot. So my x2 is my age copy 2. Or rather, since we're not removing from it, let's just leave it that way. I'll say x is equal to self dot weight copy 1 dot pop. And we'll have result is equal to x multiplied by y. What are we doing after that? We want to append x1 dot append the result. So for us to find the summation of that, we say summation x1 x2 equal to sum of x1 x2. So we can confirm each of our values one after the other. I'll confirm them, our x1, x2, everything. So let me just confirm before we continue. I'll say print summation x1 squared. I just copy 2 more times. Summation x2 squared x1 y x2 y x1 x2. Alright, so let's check it out. Let's see if we got the exact values. Let's see if we got the exact values. So just wait. So my values here, I have some values here. Alright, so Python multiple regression. Okay, I've not called my class, so I'll call my class. My class is what? Multiple. My class name is multiple. So multiple. Multiple is my time. Multiple algorithm. Check time. So we cannot go far and make mistakes. We have to do everything properly. Okay, so we got everything apart from 1. We are getting 0 here, which is not so. It's not supposed to be so. So we're taking our value from our with x1 copy. Alright, moving that. Okay, so that was my mistake here. So I should have changed this to x2 copy. Alright, so x2 copy. Sorry about that. Run that. This is alright. Sorry. So you save that. Let's try that again. I'll be uploading the code this time around. So these are the correct values we have. So I will be uploading the full code when I'm done, so that you can at least copy it down. Alright, so I'll just comment out the prints. So I've confirmed that I've gotten the correct values for our summation x1 squared, summation x2 squared, summation x1 y, summation x2 y, and summation x1 x2. Let's continue. Alright, so the next thing we want to find our new value for our summation x1 squared down. So we're going to find new values for each of them. We're going to find new values for each of them. For x1 squared, x2 squared, down to this. Alright, let's get down to it. So for us to do that, I would just say new summation x1 squared is equal to what? So my new summation x1 squared is equal to the old one, summation x1 squared minus what? So minus summation x1. So if you can remember, we got summation x1 in our program. Summation x1 here. So we're going to call that. So it's equal to summation x1. Then divided by the total number of elements in our list. So let's quickly create that. So I should have added an n here. So I'll say n is equal to the length of the self dot height y. You can make it self dot with x1, doesn't matter. They all have the same length. So length is just the number of elements in a list. Len, we use len to find the length, that is how many elements are inside the list. Alright, so that is our n values. So we'll move down and continue our algorithm. Go down. So that's going to be divided by n. So I'm sure we can see the formula here. Let's go to our picture which we have. So you can see the formula here. So to find the new x1 square is going to be equal to the old x1 square minus summation of x1, which we got, raised to the power of 2 divided by n. So we have to raise it to the power of 2. Sorry, that's going to be double asterisk 2. So that's how we do raised to power in Python. So we want to find new summation x1 squared as well, is equal to summation, the old summation x2 squared, problem, x2 squared, I keep making mistakes, equal to the old summation x2 squared minus summation x2 raised to the power of 2. There has been Hamatan, so it's affecting my voice in a way. So just bear with me. So we have new summation x1 y is equal to summation x1 y minus summation x1 y to minus summation x1 multiplied by summation x2. If you can remember, we also created summation x2 divided by n. So we want to find new summation x2 y is equal to old summation x2 y minus summation x2 multiplied by summation x multiplied by summation y divided by n. Summation y. I hope we understand. I'm just following what we have in our picture here. So you can see, for us to find summation x1 squared, we have this, and for us to find our summation x2 squared, we have this as well. Find summation x1y is equal to the old summation x1y minus summation x1 summation y divided by n. And also to find summation x2y is the same thing we are going to do. Alright, so 30 minutes have gone already. Let's try to wrap up what we are doing here so that we won't spend unnecessary time. Alright, so the next one is new summation x1 x2 equal to summation x1 x2 minus summation x1 multiplied by summation x2, okay, divided by n. So now these are our new values. You can also confirm that if they are correct, but I don't expect them to be wrong. Let's just do that anyway. Quickly confirm everything. So new function x1 squared, copy it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, function x2. Alright, so function x1 y, function x2 y, summation x1 x2. Alright, let's check it out. So precisely what I have here. Alright, so we are correct, we are on track. Alright, let's continue. So you comment it out. Comment out the print. Alright, so let's continue. Alright, so now that we have found our new values, so we want to insert it into our B1 and B2. So we're going to have to find our B1 and B2 first before we find our B0. So we're going to impute our value. So we're going to have our new summation x2 squared, new summation x1y, like that, down, and also do that for B2 as well. Alright, so so let's continue. So we're going to find for B1 first. Alright, so my B1 is equal to, so you open up the parentheses and you solve for that first. So I'm going to have new summation x1 squared, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, sorry, summation x2 squared rather. X2 squared. So multiplied by new summation x1y. So minus, open the parentheses, new summation x1 x2. So x1 x2 multiplied by new summation x2 x2y. The new summation x2y. Alright, we'll have our numerator. So it's time to find our denominator as well. Open up the parentheses and we'll have our new summation x1 squared multiplied. So let me expand so that it won't be dragging to the screen. So multiplied by new summation x2 squared x2 squared minus new summation x1 x2 all with the power of 2. So that's what we have. So let us see what we have for our B1. Everything must correspond before we can proceed. So let's print it out. I'm not going back to this. Alright, so we have it correct. It's correct. So let's find our B2. Our B2 is almost the same formula as our B1. So this formula I just wrote here for our B1. I'll show you the formula. This formula is the formula in our picture we have here. So this is the formula we just did for our B1. We found our new summation x2, found the new value. We found the new value of this, new value of this, new value of this, divided by new value, new value, new value. So this is using Python for machine learning, like I said, and we can see very well that we know that our x is our independent variable. We're trying to find y, which is the dependent variable. Alright, so we'll do the same thing for our B2 as well. So for our B2, we're going to have the same thing. So you open a parenthesis inside, then you're going to have new summation x1 squared, if I'm not mistaken, x1 squared, yes, and we have it multiplied by new summation x2y, summation x2y minus to the same formula as our B1 minus new summation x1 and x1 x2 multiplied by new summation x1 y. Alright, so divided by, so now they both have the same denominator. You just copy this down, save yourself the stress, save yourself time. Just copy it down there, copy it, paste it there. They have the same value. Right, so let's print out B2 and see what's up. So print B2. We will soon be finished. We will soon be done. So we have minus 1.65. So alright, so they correspond. Alright, so now the next thing for us to do is to find our B0. So if you can look at our picture, what we did, you can see very well for our B0 is we got the mean of y. We found the mean of y, that is adding all the values in our y data set, that is our height, adding them together, dividing them by the total number of elements inside the y-axis. That's for our y, our mean of y rather. Then our mean of x1, the same thing, adding all the values under our weights and dividing them by the total number of elements inside our list. Also the same thing for our x2, adding all the values together in the under our age and dividing them by the total number of elements in our age. Alright, then after that we will now predict future values. So let's do that. Let's find our B0. B0 is equal to mean of y. So I already have mean of y already, minus b1. We have b1 already, multiplied by mean of x1. We have x1 as well, minus b2 multiplied by mean of x2. So just in case you are wondering where I got mean of x1 and mean of x2, that was what we did initially when we started our program. That's what we did initially when we started our program. So you can see very well that here we found the value for our mean of x1 and mean of x2. Alright, so that's how I got the value. So now we have our b naught now. Let's try to predict future values. So I have my y is equal to what? My b naught. So from the picture, you can see the formula here. Y is equal to b naught plus b1 multiplied by x1 plus b2 multiplied by x2. So my x1 and my x2, I'm going to supply the value. Remember, all what we did here, we were training the algorithm with the supplied data that we had. We had data, we supplied it to the algorithm to train it so that the algorithm can be able to predict future values. Now we have trained the algorithm with our data. Now we want the algorithm to predict the future heights after we have, or after we will supply it with an age and a weight of a person. So what I'm going to do here, let us make a guess. Let us just guess. So now I will have b naught plus b1 multiplied by x1. So I'll keep it at x1 and I'll say plus b2 multiplied by x2. Alright, and after that I will return y. That's what I want to return. But I don't have x1 and x2. How do I supply that? So this would be another video when I am teaching Python. For now, like I said, I just have to keep on repeating myself for the sake of clarity. This is not a Python video. This is a video on machine learning using Python. You understand? So, like I said, I assume that you already have knowledge on Python and you already have knowledge, a little bit of knowledge on machine learning, just a little bit, not much. So you can see that I'm showing you the equation and I'm showing you how to derive that equation using Python. Alright, so please don't worry, you'll get my subsequent videos on Python showing you a breakdown of how all these are gotten. But you can see now that I've supplied positional arguments. Positional arguments are just representatives or representations of our actual supplied value. So now for this function, once I call this function or once I write this function name again to execute what is inside the function, I would need to supply numeric values for x1 and x2. That is, supply actual numeric values. So when I supply those numeric values, automatically those values now become the values for my x1 and x2 here. Alright, so inside the algorithm, we know that x1 represents the weight and x2 represents the age. You can confirm that from your original data set. So you can see that x1 is the weight and x2 is the age. So what if now I'm trying to supply someone's age, someone's weight. I say the person weighs 60 kg and he's 21 years old. What is going to be his height? So I'm trying to predict the person's height, which is my y. But like I said, the return value does not print out anything. I said this in my last video. The return value executes a program in Python without printing it out. So I would be explaining this in my Python video. But now we're trying to predict the person's height. So now this person has a height of 147.22 centimeters. Let's go back and let's compare. So I said the person weighed 60 kg and he's 21 years old. So now you can see can see that here my weight here was 60 kg, but this person was 22 years old. So the person had a height of 140 centimeters. All right, let us do something that would be more relatable. Let's try and use these two values that we supplied to our algorithm, and let's see if our algorithm would predict something close to this value. So that will tell us if our algorithm is correct or not. All right, so I'll go down, change it to the value here was 60 and 22. So I'll change this one to 22. Let's see what the algorithm will predict. So you see the algorithm got 145.7 centimeters. So that is just it is a bit higher. Is on the high side. It's not really close to 140. So let us check the next one, 62.25. The algorithm is correct anyway, but just to confirm, we can check a couple of values to confirm this. So let me give a weight of 62 and an age of 25. So 62 and 25. 62 and 25. So let us see the predicted value. So you see we get 146. Now, the reason why some values deviate from each other in machine learning is because machine learning algorithms are mathematical algorithms. Now, for this multiple regression, there's what we call overfitting, or there's what we call tuning an algorithm to be accurate. So sometimes an algorithm might deviate from the predicted value with some error. Now you will need to fine-tune that algorithm to be able to bring it close to the correct value. But for the fact that it falls within the range of 140 and also the next value which I predicted, which was 146, it is also almost close to 155. You can see very well that this algorithm lies within that range. So what it needs is just to be fitted. So we need to fit this algorithm or fine-tune it as well. Let's check one more value. So let's check 67 and 24. So this person has a weight of 67 and he's 24 years old. 67 and 24. So he has a weight of 67. He's 24. Let's check a couple of values to see how. So you see we get 164.29. 164.29. And you can see here we have 159. So the algorithm is getting a bit close to our predicted value. This is 159 and we got 164. So it's a bit far, but well, it's not too far, but it's within that range of that is the error is just a little bit deviated from the predicted value. So this is how we carry out multiple regression. So now I would explain something before I go. Now, if you look at this our data sets, there is a positive relationship. That is the correlation between the dependent variable and independent variable is a positive relationship, in the sense that if we are to plot a graph of our y-axis against any of this x-axis, you will discover that as one value is increasing, the other value is also increasing as well. So we are going to have a linear model starting from the origin, heading towards the predicted values. So we're going to have a straight line passing through all our supplied values given to the algorithm. So I'm just trying to let you know that even though we find out that the error is a bit different from what we supplied to our algorithm, does not mean that this algorithm is not correct. That's why I said that we fit our algorithm, that is, most machine learning algorithms are fitted to be able to give you the accurate and proper solution. Alright, so once again, my name is Eliaza. Now, if you have not yet subscribed, I wonder what you are waiting for. Why you haven't yet subscribed yet? So just hit that subscribe button and turn on your bell notification icon to get notified for my next video. Till I see you next time, peace out.